lots of questions remain around exactly what the motivation might have been in this.
Yes, indeed, and counter-terrorism detectives who were assisting Nottingham police throughout the day yesterday, we're told, are now taking a step back, that Nottinghamshire police will continue to lead this investigation. There is nothing that points as yet to any terrorist motivation for the events that unfolded in several areas of the city. We're in Milton Street. This is where those three members of the public were run over by this van, one man still in a critical condition. And as for the suspect, who was later tasered and arrested by the police, well, GB News has been told that he is a 31-year-old West African migrant who has a history of violence and mental health issues. Now, whether he had a criminal record or not, we're not aware of that at this time, but clearly it raises all kinds of questions about whether there was any kind of indicators, pointers to a propensity for violence before he came to the UK, or indeed even when he was in the UK. That will all form part of the longer term investigation alongside the police inquiry, which continues apace. Yesterday we saw a number of properties not far from the scene where these two young students were stabbed to death that were raided, properties we understand that were linked to the 31-year-old suspect. Two women were taken away. They'll have been taken away really as part of a process of witness interviews at that stage. What we're going through really is a process where the detectives finding out exactly who this individual is, they then go raid and check the home address, check the address of people that might be either family members or other friends of this individual, as they piece together as much as they can, because they are, of course, trying to find out more about this suspect, but also whether anyone else may be linked to what was happening, may have had knowledge, or may well be planning something similar. No indication of that. The police are convinced that this was an isolated incident.
OK, Mark, with that, thank you very much. Do keep us posted. As I say, we're expecting an update from the police shortly, I would imagine.
Mark, talk to us about the mood there. When Isabel and I broke this yesterday morning, it was a bright day. The weather was exactly the same as it is with you today. We're coming to the end of term time and graduation at these universities. These students have done all their hard work. And there obviously was a bit of a party atmosphere on the streets and whatever. That obviously has changed in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this so many times over the years. You come to a community and many people really are quite appalled and shocked by what's happened. Lots of other people, I have to say, just getting on with their lives as they have to do. But you're right to talk about this sort of party atmosphere in the city. This is a university city, two big famous universities. These two young students had been at a nightclub with so many other young students, as is so much a part of student life. They were about to celebrate yesterday evening a graduation ball, which then was cancelled clearly as a mark of respect by Nottingham University. But that is just an indication of where we are. This is a young and a vibrant city because of those two universities, and they will feel it particularly badly.
Mark, thank you very much indeed. We want to bring in now Philip Ingram. Philip, security is his thing. He's a former senior military intelligence officer on all of this one. And Philip, how the police are dealing with this? This guy seems to be not connected to a terrorist organisation. The brutality of his killings, whether they were influenced by terrorist organisations, that's another question to answer. But surely for the security forces now, the main thing is to reinforce that these streets in Nottingham are safe? Because there are a lot of people they want to get out of there now. They're frightened to go out on the streets.
Completely. And the police reaction, whenever it first started, was robust because they didn't know what was going on. And they went in as if it was a major terrorist incident so that they can bring all of the resources to bear as quickly as possible and then tune them back once they got more information through. But the critical piece was to protect the public first and foremost as they worked out what it was that was going on, get the suspect arrested. And as Mark has described, very well indeed, they're now in the process of gathering the evidence to try and find out what the motivation behind this horrendous attack was.
Well, we want to talk about the mood on the streets now, and joining us is our correspondent, Ellie Phillips. So, Philip, just stay there and we hear her take on things, because the thing is, you were a student at Nottingham University.
Yeah, I was at the University of Nottingham for 5 years, stayed on campus for 1 year, and then for the other 4 was in Lenton, which is where the 2 students were murdered. And it's hard to explain to people how, for me, it's not that it was in Nottingham as a big city, it was that it was in this student bubble. You don't go there if you weren't a student. It was full of students. It was just the life and soul of life there. So much fun and such a happy, safe place.
Yeah.
I remember walking around feeling so kind of at ease 24/7, no matter what time of day, bumping into students constantly because that's where everyone lived, making the best memories and just being so excited for future life. This has really, torn through the heart of that, and I feel really bad for obviously those who died and the families affected, but also the students living in that area now, who will no doubt feel really scared.
We don't know what they were studying at the university, but we are getting more details about the victims. One of them, Grace, was a former England hockey player, and we know that Barnaby was a cricketer. Exceptional people. And, of course, the University of Nottingham, you'll know this, incredibly hard to get into. One of the top 5, I'd say, probably, universities in the country. And here we are, they've just finished their exams. We understand they were end-of-term parties, making their way home after a night out. Nightclubs closing about 3:30. This all happening around 4 in the morning. And this would have been a party. You'll have walked those streets in that exact scenario.
The exact scenario. The way that the layout of the city is that you've got the big nightclub, which is Ocean, in the centre, and that goes to Ilkeston Road, which goes to Wollerton Road, which then the university is the bottom. So that whole pathway is where students make their way home at the end of a night. So it's usually got loads of students walking down together, different times of the night. And as you say, it was party season, the term had finished. Last night was meant to be grab ball. Sadly, it was cancelled after this horrific attack.
You see, the thing is, Philip, from a security point of view, this suspect, he would have known everything that Ellie's just described to us there. And yet, I mean, I've driven a van in my times, the size that he drove. Not an easy thing to do, especially if you've never done it before. So whether that was luck that came his way, stabbing that poor van driver, a man in his mid-50s, and killing him as well. How much do you think this seems to have been luck or misfortune?
Well, complete misfortune for the poor victims that are there. But clearly, the individual, again, from what I understand, he was dressed in black. He had clearly got a knife. He'd gone prepared for this, whether that was through some form of mental health episode or whether he'd been groomed by anything that he'd seen and all the rest of it. This is what the police are trying to establish at the moment. His motivation may not have been terrorist related, but he may have been shown how to do these sorts of things, because unfortunately there are a lot of instructions for this sort of stuff online, and individuals who are vulnerable, whether it be through mental health or other reasons, are the targets of the groomers that get people to do this sort of stuff. This is what the police will concentrate on at the moment. The shocking thing is that there are 3 people dead and there are 3 people seriously injured. The good thing is that the police response managed to close down Nottingham very quickly indeed, have isolated and arrested this individual. And I think the public can be confident that the police investigation, and they're saying they're treating this as an isolated incident, means it was an isolated incident. And, there's a period of mourning that the city has to go through, but people can be secure in the thought that the police have got this sort of robust response and there's no additional threat around.